By the time I arrived at my parents' mansion, 3 children were already hanging off my coat like tiny caffeinated raccoons. "And Ava!" One screamed directly into my ear. Another one somehow had frosting on his forehead. The smallest one just pointed at me and announced, "She smells expensive." I hadn't even stepped fully inside before my mother appeared holding a clipboard and stress-drinking white wine like she was preparing for military combat instead of a Christmas charity gala. "Oh good, you're here," she said. "Take the twins upstairs. Madison needs a break." I blinked slowly. "Hello to you too, Mother. Wonderful weather, we're having an emotional neglect season." She ignored me completely. That was her superpower. Every year my parents hosted the biggest charity Christmas gala in the city. Wealthy donors came in designer outfits pretending they cared about sick children, while silently competing over whose watch cost more than a small nation's economy. And every year I paid for almost all of it. Not publicly, of course. Publicly, my parents acted like they personally created Christmas spirit with hard work and sacrifice. Privately, I funded the orchestra, catering, decorations, donor gifts, imported wine, security, and the absurd 12-foot crystal reindeer currently blocking the hallway like a festive tax write-off. Meanwhile, my older brother contributed exactly nothing besides reproducing recklessly. Yet somehow I was the selfish one. "I just billed a corporate merger at $900 an hour," I said while removing a sticky candy cane from my purse. "And now I'm apparently unpaid daycare." "You don't have children," my mother replied. "You have free time." That sentence alone explained 90% of my personality disorders. Across the room, my father laughed too loudly at something a rich donor said. The donor's wife looked surgically incapable of blinking. My cousin Brittany rushed over holding a crying toddler. "Can you watch him for just 20 minutes? She begged. "You said that 3 hours ago at Thanksgiving. And you were amazing at it." "Yes, because unlike the rest of you, I understand that children require supervision and not just applesauce packets and prayer." Before Brittany could guilt-trip me further, a deep voice spoke behind me. "Human holiday gatherings appear emotionally violent." I turned and nearly forgot how breathing worked. Cale stood near the doorway in a dark tailored suit that looked criminal on him. Tall, silver-eyed, calm, annoyingly attractive. As one of the diplomatic representatives from the Valari Alliance, he technically spent most of his time negotiating interstellar trade agreements. But lately he'd been spending suspicious amounts of time around me. Probably because he found human dysfunction entertaining. "Cale," I said carefully. "You made it. I was told there would be ritual drinking and public emotional suppression." "That is correct. Welcome to Christmas." His gaze shifted toward a decorative elf sitting on a shelf nearby. "That creature," he said quietly, "has not moved in 37 minutes. It's a decoration. So it only watches." "Yes." "Horrifying." I laughed before I could stop myself. Which was dangerous around Cale because the man noticed everything. His silver eyes narrowed slightly. "You appear unhappy." "I'm at a family event. That's the default setting." My mother suddenly stormed back into the room. "Ava, where have you been? The Wilson children spilled chocolate on the donor bags and someone needs to clean it before guests arrive." I stared at her. "You mean the donor bags I paid for?" Her expression sharpened instantly. "There you go again," she snapped. "Always making everything about money. That's interesting coming from a woman whose entire personality is sponsored by my bank account." The room went silent. Even the kids stopped screaming for a second, which honestly felt supernatural. My mother lowered her wine glass slowly. "You know what your problem is? You never contribute emotionally. You act superior to everyone." I almost laughed. Emotionally? I funded this entire circus while simultaneously being used as free childcare and emergency staff. But sure. I lacked warmth. "I contribute plenty," I replied coldly. "No," she said. "You contribute checks. That's not the same thing as being part of this family." That one landed harder than I expected. Cale's expression shifted slightly beside me, his posture suddenly alert. Then my mother delivered the final blow. Honestly, if you can't help willingly this year, maybe don't come to Christmas dinner at all. The silence afterward was incredible. Like the universe itself paused for drama. My father pretended to study the Christmas tree. Brittany suddenly became very interested in her phone. Nobody defended me. Of course they didn't. Because they all assumed exactly the same thing. Ava would still pay anyway. I smiled slowly. Calmly. Dangerously. Then I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" my mother asked. I opened my banking app. Contributing less emotionally. The first payment cancellation hit 12 minutes later. I know this because my mother called me exactly 12 minutes after I left the house. "Ava," she said with terrifying calm, "why did the catering company just cancel?" I smiled while driving through downtown traffic. Maybe they sensed negative energy. This is not funny. Oh, I completely agree. You should hear what the ice sculptor said before hanging up. Apparently crystal swans are very difficult to carve without deposits. Silence. Then breathing. Aggressive breathing. You cannot sabotage this event because you're upset. Actually, legally speaking, I absolutely can. I paid for it. You already committed the funds. And now I've uncommitted them. Growth is important. She hung up on me. 3 seconds later my father called. Then Brittany. Then 2 aunts. Apparently the orchestra had also discovered the tragic condition known as non-payment. By the time I reached my apartment, the family group chat looked like a hostage negotiation. "Mom, call me immediately. Dad, this is embarrassing. Brittany, the wine vendor is leaving? Uncle Rick, was the seafood order under your name? Mom, Ava, answer your phone." I muted the conversation and threw my phone onto the couch. Then immediately screamed into a pillow for emotional balance. "Human families," Cale observed from my kitchen doorway, "seem structurally unsound." I pointed at him dramatically. Exactly. He had followed me home after quietly witnessing my public exile from Christmas like a very handsome alien emotional support assassin. Now he stood in my apartment holding 2 cups of tea with the elegance of a man born to rule galaxies. Meanwhile, I still had glitter on my coat from a child named Mason who apparently exploded craft supplies recreationally. Cale handed me a mug carefully. "You are troubled. My mother disinvited me from Christmas because I refused to become unpaid daycare staff. That does sound irrational. She said I don't contribute emotionally." He considered this seriously. "But you financed the entire gathering." "Yes." "And raised multiple offspring that were not yours." "Yes." "And tolerated your cousin Brittany. That alone deserves humanitarian awards." Cale nodded solemnly. "I agree." I snorted tea through my nose. That was another dangerous thing about him. He delivered absurd statements with such calm sincerity that resisting laughter became impossible. Outside, snow drifted softly past the apartment windows while my phone continued vibrating like it was possessed. Cale glanced toward it. "Will you answer?" "No. Tonight I choose peace." "An excellent strategy." 20 minutes later, my mother accidentally uploaded a panic video to the family social account instead of sending it privately. Which meant half the city suddenly watched her screaming in the ballroom while workers removed rented Christmas decorations behind her. In the background my father yelled, "Why are they taking the reindeer?" I laughed so hard I nearly passed out. "Oh stars," Cale murmured, staring at the video. "Your father sounds near death." "He's fine. He just lost decorative livestock." Unfortunately, the disaster kept evolving. The luxury wine supplier replaced their cancelled order with whatever remained in stock, which apparently included peach-flavored boxed wine and something labeled Holiday Sangria Explosion. My cousin Brittany tried saving money by ordering replacement decorations online. She accidentally bought Halloween inventory. According to the photos flooding social media, the ballroom now contained orange glitter snowflakes, skeleton centerpieces, and what appeared to be a demonic inflatable gingerbread man. Honestly, it looked incredible. My mother sent me 17 voice messages. One included crying. Another included threats. A third sounded like she was fighting with a folding chair. Meanwhile, Kale calmly scrolled through the chaos beside me. Your family's social hierarchy is collapsing rapidly, he noted. You say that like you're narrating a wildlife documentary. In my defense, he said, your uncle just attempted to staple velvet curtains directly into marble. I grabbed the phone from him. Sure enough, there was Uncle Rick standing on a ladder while two wealthy donors watched in visible horror. I collapsed onto the couch laughing again. For the first time in years, I wasn't fixing everything. And weirdly, it felt amazing. Kale sat beside me, close enough that warmth radiated from his body. Valari naturally ran hotter than humans. Something about their biology. Or maybe he was just illegally attractive. You know, he said softly. On my world, holiday bonding rituals involve honesty. That sounds exhausting. It is. Several political alliances collapse annually. I smiled faintly. Then his hand brushed mine. Just barely. But enough. My stomach immediately forgot how to function. Kale looked at me carefully. You hide injury beneath humor. Well, yeah. Therapy is expensive. I do not think that is the preferred medical response. I looked away before he noticed how flustered I suddenly felt. Unfortunately for me, alien diplomats apparently missed nothing. You deserve care without transaction, Ava, he said quietly. Your family treats affection like currency. That one hit harder than my mother's comments earlier. Because deep down, I knew he was right. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a social media notification. Someone had already posted photos from the half-finished gala ballroom. The caption read, "Why does this millionaire charity event look like a gas station birthday party?" By 7 o'clock, the charity gala had evolved from elegant holiday fundraiser into something resembling a hostage situation hosted inside a collapsing wedding reception. I knew this because videos were everywhere. One donor uploaded a clip complaining about the appetizers while a child in reindeer pajamas sprinted behind him holding an entire shrimp ring with his bare hands. Another video showed my mother screaming at a caterer beside a fountain made entirely of boxed cheese dip. And somehow, unbelievably, the inflatable demonic gingerbread man had become the centerpiece of the ballroom. I watched the chaos from my couch while wearing fuzzy socks and drinking expensive wine I had originally purchased for the gala. Revenge tasted fruity with hints of oak. Kale stood near the kitchen counter preparing hot chocolate with the focus of a surgeon. Apparently Valari took beverages very seriously. You are smiling more tonight, he observed. That's because nobody has handed me a screaming toddler in 6 hours. A remarkable improvement. My phone buzzed nonstop across the coffee table. Mom calling. Dad calling. Brittany crying probably. I ignored all of them. Instead, I watched another live stream from the gala. My Uncle Rick had apparently attempted to save money by cooking frozen appetizers himself. Now smoke poured from the kitchen while wealthy donors in designer clothes awkwardly pretended not to notice firefighters entering through the back entrance. Kale stared at the screen with fascination. Your father appears to be perspiring through his suit. He thinks public embarrassment causes death. Does it? Emotionally? Yes. I nearly choked laughing again. Honestly, I hadn't felt this relaxed in years. No responsibilities. No fixing disasters. No pretending my family loved me more than my checking account. Just peace. And one dangerously attractive alien standing in my kitchen rolling up his sleeves. Which honestly should have been classified as a controlled weapon. Kale carried 2 mugs over carefully before sitting beside me. Close. Very close. You know, I said lightly, you're handling this suspiciously well for someone witnessing human social collapse. In diplomatic training we study primitive conflict behavior. I narrowed my eyes. Did you just call my family primitive? He considered this. Would chaotic be kinder? Marginally. His silver eyes glimmered with amusement. Then his expression softened slightly. You are still hurt. The teasing faded from my face. Outside the apartment window, snow drifted through the city lights while distant Christmas music floated up from the street below. For a moment, everything felt strangely quiet. I admitted slowly, I spent so long earning approval that I forgot normal people don't have to purchase affection. Cale listened carefully. That was another thing about him. Humans interrupted. Cale absorbed. My parents only notice me when I'm useful. I continued. Money. Babysitting. Problem solving. If I stopped helping, I basically stopped existing. You exist very loudly, he said immediately. I laughed softly. But then he reached over and took my hand. Gentle. Warm. Steady. And suddenly my sarcastic little defense mechanism started malfunctioning. You should not have to earn love through exhaustion, he said quietly. That is not family. That is employment with emotional blackmail. Wow, I muttered. You really did study humans. I studied you. That one hit dangerously hard. Before I could recover mentally, my phone exploded with incoming messages again. This time even my grandmother was calling. Which meant the situation had escalated beyond ordinary disaster. Curiosity 1. I opened the newest live stream. The ballroom looked catastrophic. One decorative arch had collapsed into the dessert table. Children chased each other between horrified donors. Someone in the background yelled, "Who microwaved seafood?" And there, in the center of it all, stood my mother in a designer gown beside a folding table stacked with chicken nuggets. A wealthy donor approached her cautiously. "Margaret," he said, visibly confused. "I thought this was a luxury charity gala." My mother smiled with the strained expression of a woman seconds from committing tax fraud. "We're embracing simplicity this year." Right behind her, Uncle Rick slipped on glitter snow and crashed directly into the inflatable gingerbread demon. I screamed laughing. Actual tears streamed down my face. Cale leaned closer beside me, watching with open fascination. "Your family gatherings are more entertaining than interstellar Senate hearings." That may be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Then the live stream camera shifted suddenly. And for one horrible second, my mother looked directly into it. "Call AVA!" she shrieked. The stream immediately ended. I dropped my phone onto the couch. "Nope. You will not rescue them?" I looked around my apartment. Soft lights. Warm food. Peaceful silence. No screaming children. No fake smiles. No emotional debt collectors disguised as relatives. Then I looked at Cale. Still holding my hand. Still looking at me like I mattered even when I wasn't fixing something. And suddenly the answer became incredibly easy. "No," I said softly. Cale studied me for a long moment. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out a small bundle of glowing silver flowers. They shimmered faintly blue beneath the apartment lights and smelled like cinnamon mixed with rain. I blinked. "What are those?" "A Valari courting tradition." My brain stopped functioning briefly. "You brought me alien romance flowers during my family's public downfall?" "You seemed stressed." I stared at him. Then started laughing again. But this time softer. Warmer. Cale moved closer slowly, his voice low. "On my world," he murmured, "offering these means I would cross galaxies to keep someone smiling." My heart performed several illegal activities at once. A dangerous lion diplomat. I am beginning to enjoy danger. Then my phone rang again. MOM calling. Without breaking eye contact with Cale, I silenced it. And kissed him instead. The charity gala disaster went viral before midnight. By morning, multiple news accounts had reposted clips of wealthy donors eating microwaved nuggets beneath collapsing Halloween decorations while an inflatable demon gingerbread man rotated slowly in the background like Satan himself sponsored Christmas. One headline read, "Local elite hosts, luxury, charity event with boxed wine and fire hazard." Another simply said, "Where did the money go?" Which, honestly, was my favorite part. Because technically, the money went back into my savings account. I was still laughing about it the next morning when someone started pounding on my apartment door hard enough to qualify as attempted murder. Cale looked up from the kitchen immediately. He had stayed the night. Nothing scandalous happened. Mostly because every time he looked at me with those silver alien eyes, my brain short-circuited like cheap holiday lights. The knocking continued. Then came my mother's voice. "Ava! Open this door right now!" I sighed deeply. "Ah, yes. Christmas spirits." Cale moved beside me instantly. Not aggressively. But there was suddenly something very intimidating about a 7-foot alien diplomat standing silently behind a woman preparing for family warfare. I opened the door. My parents stormed inside looking like two rich people who had recently survived a yacht explosion. My mother's hair was frizzing from stress. My father looked 20 years older. Behind them stood Brittany holding a half-eaten donut and somehow still wearing gala glitter. "You humiliated us," my mother snapped immediately. I blinked slowly. "Interesting interpretation considering you publicly compared your fundraiser to a prison cafeteria. This is not funny." "No," I agreed. "The shrimp poisoning was especially concerning." My father rubbed his face aggressively. "The donors are furious." "The mayor left early." "Smart woman." "Ava!" my mother shouted. Cale quietly stepped closer behind me. The room instantly changed. My father noticed him fully for the first time and visibly panicked. "Why is the alien here?" Cale tilted his head slightly. "Ava likes me." "Honestly, solid answer." Brittany whispered. "Oh my God, that's kind of hot." "Focus," my mother hissed at her. Then she turned back toward me with the dramatic exhaustion of a woman whose social empire had been hit by an asteroid. "You destroyed Christmas over one argument." And there it was. That sentence. That unbelievably selfish sentence. Something inside me finally snapped loose. "One argument?" I repeated quietly. My mother folded her arms defensively. For years I would have backed down right there. Made a joke. Paid the bill. Fixed the disaster. Not anymore. "I funded your entire lifestyle," I said. "The gala. The vacations. The donor gifts. Half the mortgage payments you pretend Dad handles." Silence. My father suddenly found the floor fascinating. I kept going. "I babysat everyone's children for free. Solved every emergency. Covered every financial disaster. And somehow I'm still treated like the selfish daughter because I refused to spend Christmas changing diapers beside an ice sculpture." Brittany awkwardly lowered her donut. "You told me I didn't contribute emotionally," I continued. "Do you know why I stopped being emotional around this family? Because every single conversation came with a price tag attached." My mother opened her mouth. I raised a finger immediately. "No. You don't get to cry now. You don't get to guilt me because your rich friends saw folding chairs." Her face reddened instantly. Cale stood silently beside me the entire time like a terrifyingly attractive bodyguard from another galaxy. Honestly, it helped. A lot. "You only notice me when I'm useful," I said. "The second I stopped funding everything, suddenly I became a problem instead of a daughter." For once, nobody interrupted. Even Brittany looked guilty now. Finally my father spoke quietly. "She's not wrong." My mother turned toward him in horror. "Excuse me? She carried this family for years, Margaret." Wow. I almost needed a chair. My father admitting emotional truth before a cardiac event was genuinely historic. My mother looked stunned. Then tired. Really tired. "I didn't realize," she started weakly. "Yes, you did," I interrupted calmly. "You just assumed I'd tolerate it forever." The apartment went silent again. Then, unbelievably, my grandmother pushed past everyone from the hallway carrying a casserole dish. Apparently she'd been waiting outside listening. Honestly, iconic behavior. She walked directly toward Cale. "You single?" she asked him immediately. My mother nearly screamed. Cale looked alarmed. "I am currently pursuing Ava romantically." Grandma nodded approvingly. Good. She deserves better than these lunatics. I covered my face laughing. Even my father cracked a smile. The tension finally broke after that. Not perfectly. Not magically. But enough. My mother sat down slowly on the couch and looked at me for the first time in years without treating me like a resource. What happens now? She asked quietly. I leaned back against the counter. Now? I said. You learn how expensive your lifestyle actually is. Brittany groaned softly. And, I added, I'm never babysitting during holidays again unless somebody's actively on fire. Fair, Brittany admitted. Cale glanced toward me, amusement glowing in his silver eyes. On my world, he said, this resolution process usually ends with ceremonial drinking. Grandma lifted the casserole. I got rum cake. Excellent, Cale replied seriously. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. A week ago my family claimed I contributed nothing. Now their fake perfect charity empire looked like the aftermath of a festive natural disaster while I stood in my apartment beside a gorgeous alien who actually appreciated me without invoices attached. Honestly? Best Christmas ever.